Thanks, Join Channel here over at Subscribestar. So Lilo and Stitch finds the sunny side of Twitter, and it doesn't feel so welcoming. It feels like Haiti 2.0, where they turn on the Hapa and delete them also. Of course, then they starve, but whatever. I'm sure they're doing just fine now. So when people argue over this kind of soy slop, to me, it's like watching useful idiots arguing over poisoning themselves. You want arsenic or tetrodotoxin? Would you rather drown from a salty croc or a hammerhead shark? Why are you arguing over these ticks and leeches who are pushing this cultural Bolshevism in the first place? It's poison. It's like a sugar-coated bullet. That doesn't actually matter if you fill the hollow point with... No, you don't understand. It's delicious sugar in that hollow point. Yeah, that doesn't make a difference. Or we're going to paint this box of grenades rainbow colored. These landmines that we're going to sell to the Middle East to fight proxy wars, well, we'll donate a percentage of their profits to BLT causes. Oh, okay, it's fine then. It's as long as Obama is drone striking people, it's cool. Or having Russians or Ukrainians slaughter each other, it's fine because CNN told us it's for democracy, which apparently means Zelensky closes churches and censors the press. So if that's democracy, then I'm going to have to be on the side of the Russians because at least they're like openly authoritarians, where Zelensky is kind of a hidden one. So keep in mind, this actor, you can look at her through different images. They're calling her a fair-skinned person of the light. She's not European. She's only half European. That's she's not dark enough for sunny Twitter, so what are the Hapa supposed to do? Representation means everyone, including fair-skinned Hapa. And I will say, on Twitter, there is a surprising amount of pushback on people defending her. It does feel like people are getting more and more frustrated with these Machiavellian machinators, these fomenters of discord, these barracks attorneys. There is some pushback that is starting to come. So keep in mind, this is all deck chairs on the Titanic, and don't let their hatred blackpill you. Work on spreading the message to try to awaken the normie wherever you can, to force them to see that separation is the only solution. There's really no point in continuing this little experiment. And no, it's not just one stupid movie that's doing a bunch of heavy lifting. Obviously, you've seen this kind of stuff before. Every day is a step further into, I'll say Sodom and Gomorrah, because that's probably not as triggering of the algorithm as that other example I always use. So Lilo and Stitch was a 2002 animation about an alien invasion. People seem to enjoy it. I went back, I watched it last night. I rigged the main sale. It seemed like a pretty mediocre kids movie, just standard Disney stuff. But of course, the red hair girl is the antagonist. Now, in case you're not familiar with Hawaii, like obviously Disney hates European people, but the Europeans over there, the majority is going to be Portuguese because they came to be farmers and whatnot, 100 plus years ago. So the red hair girl to be the object of their hatred is really weird. But the reason they can't use Portuguese is because they're too brown. They got darker hair, darker eyes, a little bit of a tan. So they include this girl from northwestern Europe, the rarest of the rare minority, not just globally but also in Hawaii at any time. Like the European majority over there would be Portuguese, so it doesn't make sense. But Portuguese are ethnically kind of ambiguous, Mediterranean. They're in person you can tell the difference between them and Native Hawaiians or Asians or whatever. But there's a lot of mix of people who are over there who are just kind of very well tanned. So they picked a red hair girl to say, okay, we need you to focus. We need you to know that this person's European. Where Portuguese, you don't really know what they are. So that's why Disney does the focus on the all the characters in Lilo and Stitch who are vaguely antagonistic are going to have blonde or red hair. You're very clearly going to know that they're of European origin. So she's the antagonist, and she's violently attacked. And I got to say, there's that scene in Lilo and Stitch from 2002. That bit of violence in an animation, watching this the Hawaiian girl get on top of this red hair girl, which is an ultra rare minority of a minority, and she's the object of her hatred, and she gets violently attacked. It's a weird, jarring bit of violence, and just like in your mind, imagine like you swap out the red hair girl. It's like because when they bend over backwards to include something that is just the statistical anomaly, but every single time you see this statistical anomaly crop up, like you're flipping coins, but it's landing on the edge every single time. You're like, okay, wait a minute, this is ridiculous. Where every bad character in every show has got blonde or red hair, and you go back through Disney characters or Hollywood in general, like this is ridiculous. But the thing is, it's important to point this out to allow the people who are not familiar with what they're doing to keep pointing this out so they see it. And when they finally see it, it clicks. And when it clicks, it really clicks. So anyway, that little bit of violence kind of stands out because she's on top of her and she's hitting her in the face with her fist. It's like, this is a kid's movie. It's like that it didn't make sense when, like, if you had to have a European person, it would be a Portuguese person, or most likely in Hawaii it would be a Portuguese mixed. But they can't have that because they're all just kind of vaguely brownish people. Like, a lot of people in Hawaii are very, very mixed. So, but they can't do that in Disney storytelling. Like a real story, that was what the story would be like. But Disney, they have to show the blonde or the red hair. Anyway, the thing is, once you put on the They Live glasses, you can't take them off, and you wouldn't want to go back to sleep in the Matrix anyway. Like it's better to not Eyes Wide Shut. What's the other movie Tom Cruise made? Vanilla Sky, I think. He's an interesting character, and he's made like a couple of movies that have been movies like that kind of make you look at him in a different way. Like, I mean, the thing that throws it off is the Scientology stuff. But then you look at the movies he's made, it's like, it feels like there's a different dimension to how you want to call somebody based, like people breaking out of the Matrix. And you look at his movies, Vanilla Sky and Eyes Wide Shut, and I think there's a couple others. You look at him and you look at Tom Cruise, and like, you're a lot smarter than you're letting on, aren't you? Or you're a deeper thinker. There's something else going on with Tom Cruise where he's trying to send you that message through the Matrix to wake up and look around. Anyway, and the hero in the movie is the black social worker, which, for an interesting thought experiment, imagine if the antagonist was a little black girl and the hero was a red-haired man. But even 20 years ago, Disney was brainwashing kids, it's like a cat with a laser pointer, to hate the red and blonde-haired people, the fair, beautiful people of the light. I think every fair-skinned person in Lilo and Stitch is portrayed as evil, stupid, or malicious. Because Disney is, of course, large-scale corporate entity pushing these Bolshevik values, and they're, it's like Constantine, where you see these cockroaches and ticks and leeches and just flying insects, but they make up an anthropomorphic figure. That's a real good depiction of Disney when they take the mask off. I mean, that's right on board there. First of all, for the Twitter crowd, let's get to this. They don't care about the hypocrisy, or on the other hand, they might literally be too far to the left of the curve to comprehend the concept. It's probably a mix of both, because the average cognitive abilities of the folks engaging in this argument, it's about, I don't know, standard deviation to the left of the peak of that curve, which means if you've got a long enough conversation with them, it'll click. You realize you just can't talk to them because they don't have the hardware to engage, or they don't want to engage, and it's kind of hard to tell which one. There's a lot of young people on Twitter. It's like, to be on Twitter, all you have to be is like, you have a $40 smartphone. That's, and a Wi-Fi connection. It would be like the frustration Elon Musk would feel if he was trying to explain quantum computing to somebody like me, because everything is relative. You're somebody. Even Tesla is probably somebody considered him a midwit, somebody more advanced than him. So there are millions of people on Twitter who are now, or at least in like a different area of science, maybe would be more accurate, who are like so dumb it hurts. And it's not just that, it's how adamant they are in their beliefs. They're very committed to knowing things that they think are facts, but actually are just feelings. And when you ask them how they know what they think they know, they don't know exactly how they know it, but they know that they know it. It's the Mark Twain paraphrase on the people who are very firmly invested in something that they don't know to be true. There's no point in talking to people like this because they're not thinking, they're feeling. It's a religious belief to them. It's like, it's that argumentative technique we ask somebody, if I could disprove this to you, for the sake of argument, like what would it take for me to disprove this to you? And if I was able to offer counter evidence, and they said there's nothing you could present that would disprove it. It's like, well, there's no point in continuing because you're not having a rational argument. You're engaged in a religious debate. So what this boils down to is that they don't value the European people, mostly because Hollywood told them not to. So when people bring up the anti-white race swapping from these ticks and leeches at Hollywood, they say that the ethnicity of the red-haired or blonde Europeans is not important, except it is. It's like saying that the foundation isn't important to something. The story of the Little Mermaid arose out of European folklore, or Tolkien with Lord of the Rings. You can't replace these people. The story is from their blood and their tribe's blood. European people are very, very special. And more people need to recognize that, because Hollywood is putting out this narrative in one direction and other people are just accepting that. You got to get out there and start advancing your own interests. It's kind of game theory 101. Anyway, so at some point the liberal normie has got to admit, and the thing is, even the MAGA normie too, there's a lot of people in that middle of the political curve, left or right. You got to admit that a lot of these people, these anti-white people, are just racists. And you're not going to be able to change their mind because they didn't do any thinking to arrive at this point. They got brainwashed through generational incremental brainwashing from 70 years of media propaganda. And changing their mind is very difficult because the platforms themselves, up until recently before Elon bought Twitter, but on YouTube, like, the platforms themselves don't allow us to have an honest discussion. I mean, you hear how careful the euphemisms have to be, and even then it's only a matter of time for channels like this. Where you're going to bitch you an Odyssey, it's like, yeah, those are great. The reach is a lot less, but it's still like there is some still reach out there. But on Twitter, things are a little bit different now because Elon bought it. But their worldview is enforced by Hollywood. It's enforced by mainstream media, Hollywood, and also the mainstream social media. So they've never had to think before. They've never had their ideas challenged. They they parrot information and they never stop to go think, well, what if it wasn't true? And they didn't they hear that it's like a conditional future. I don't understand that. It's like, yeah, let's try to work on you understanding this kind of stuff instead of just parodying information. That means like they're just like a bird repeating information they hear, but it doesn't. It's stimulus response. It doesn't pass through the higher orders of thought, any part of the brain that it requires thinking. It's just stimulus response for a lot of these people. What do you mean these people? And they're so dedicated to pushing this Bolshevik. It's like their whole argument is built on a house of sand. And one of the funniest things for these useful idiots is that they're in the position of defending this guy's in hit too, of defending $1 billion Disney, because that's the level of brainwashing they're on, where they have to defend a $1 trillion industry and these $1 billion companies. And they're how much further do I want to go on this? They're deeply invested in defending these $1 billion companies, but not respecting the culture and story of a Dutchman for the Little Mermaid, or for the Englishman Tolkien telling the stories that apparently these people love these stories so much. And go, hey, why don't you just create your own story? And they go, we can't create because evil can't create. It's like, that's weird. I mean, like, ultimately, again, like, I look at Disney, it's like, this is all deck chairs. If you're on our side, whatever you're going to take that to mean, if you're vaguely on our side, you shouldn't be supporting these companies in any way whatsoever. And some people are knee jerk on the right too. They hear that, like, don't tell me what to do. What tell me? I'm not. I'm saying, like, you're going to come to this realization. It might be a few months from now, whatever, but you'll come to the realization too, and then you'll look back and like, oh shit, why was I supporting them for so long? That tinfoil hat and that job was right the whole time. I'm gonna have to get on my garden and join my hiking clubs. Form hiking clubs, guys. Hiking. We're gonna form hiking clubs. That's good. We'll all go hiking together. That's a good thing. Anyway, so they're so brainwashed, stupid, that they value $1 billion Disney over Hans Christian Andersen or Tolkien or any of these other things, because they're really, there's a lot of adults on social media who are from this participation trophy incremental generation. Like, that really started in the 80s, so it's been around for a long time. Some of us, depending on where you were in the country, you just missed it if you're in your 40s. But there's a lot of people who've been deeply in this participation trophy crowd, and it's gotten so much worse recently. I don't think people understand the power of Hollywood propaganda. It's a machine. And there's a lot of people who see things on screen and they half believe it. And if they repeatedly see it, they believe it to their core because I don't want to say they're, how many times I have to say they're to the left of that curve, but it's because they've never had to think before. They've never had, like the censorship and deplatforming that's going on right now, that's the worst thing to happen to these people because they are in this safe space where they're told something from a cultural Bolshevik source. It usually comes to a university professor or a media source or even from their own government, and it's like it's all the same, trickles out through the same. And they don't understand, like, oh, what about the open marketplace of ideas? Literally, the Supreme Court have had these brilliant discussions over the years. And they go, no, that's all old thinking. We just need censor and deplatforming. So you're okay with other people telling you what to think. That's what it literally boils down to. I mean, I have to say all this stuff so carefully. It's like it's very challenging. Hey, I want to thank everyone over at Subscribestar, LG, and Vegan, and Mr. Awake, who's trying to send me some hardware, and I will computing hardware, FBI computing hardware, nothing else. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys all next episode.